GTIN exemptions are pretty simple until your product doesn't fit Amazon's standard expectations. That's when things get confusing, rejections start happening, and Amazon gives you almost no direction on what to fix. My team and I apply for GTIN exemptions every single month, and in this video I'll walk you through the process step by step and show you how to avoid the mistakes that get applications rejected. In this video, you'll see exactly where to apply for a GTIN exemption in Seller Central, how to handle brand name and logo mismatches, and what Amazon actually wants in your photos and packaging so you can get approved the first time. We started helping a brand apply for one of these standard approval steps on Amazon. On the surface, everything looked right, but their application had gotten rejected. At first, it made no sense, everything seemed clear, the brand name was on the product. Then we took a closer look at the logo. This was the logo, and they were trying to get approval based on the brand name Flippin' Blender. However, as you can see, the logo actually has these decorative dashes before and after the word blender. Totally aesthetic, something you'd never think twice about. Amazon did think twice about it, because to Amazon, those dashes weren't just decoration, they were part of the brand name. And since the brand name entered in Seller Central didn't match the logo exactly, character for character, the application was rejected. Nothing was wrong with the product, nothing was wrong with the photos. The issue was that Amazon isn't reviewing GTIN exemptions like perhaps a normal human would. Amazon with applications like this are very literal. So with that in mind, let's walk through the actual application process step by step, and I'll show you where these issues usually pop up and how to avoid them. Before we start, make sure to realize that a GTIN exemption isn't a good idea for every situation. I do have another video titled When Do You Need a GTIN Exemption on Amazon, which will go through all the pros and cons of using a GTIN exemption and will help you make sure your brand is one of the types that a GTIN exemption is a good fit for. That being said, you can always watch that after you apply, because even if you get a GTIN exemption, you don't necessarily have to use it. Let's get to the walkthrough. Now there's a couple steps to get to the GTIN exemption application. From your Seller Central dashboard, start by going to Manage All Inventory. Then in the top right corner, click Add a Product. On the next screen, you're going to see a few different options. You won't actually be submitting anything, just click Blank Form. Now you'll be asked to enter an item name. This does not need to be perfect yet. You're not writing your final Amazon listing here. All you want to do is type something that accurately describes what the product is. Amazon uses this text to suggest a category. Once Amazon suggests a category, if it looks right, click Confirm. If it doesn't, search and choose the closest match. Often there won't be a perfect subcategory, and that's fine. In most cases, this main category is really what matters here, but find the closest fit. Once the category is confirmed, Amazon moves you into the Product Details form. Scroll down to the Brand Name and Product ID section. Enter your brand name exactly how it appears on the product or packaging. This is important. It will get rejected if the brand name you enter into Seller Central includes more words than what actually appears on the product. For example, if you enter 5-Star Commerce Industries, but the logo only says 5-Star Commerce, Amazon will reject it. The brand name has to match what Amazon can physically see. Next, check the box that says this product does not have a product ID. Once you do that, Amazon will trigger 2 requirements: brand name approval required, GTIN exemption required. One thing to know is that if you check this product doesn't have a brand name up above, then you don't actually need a GTIN exemption. That will make the product be listed as generic, and generic products don't require a UPC code. However, that's typically a really bad idea for several reasons that I can't go into here. I may do a future video about it. For our purposes here, make sure that you're listing the product with a brand name. Click Apply to Sell, and the GTIN exemption panel will open. Next, Amazon asks for photos, and this is where most people get rejected. Amazon does not want professional photos here. Clean, professional listing images are the fastest way to get rejected. They want boring, real photos. Amazon is checking that the product physically exists, the branding is real, the brand name is readable and in focus, and that there are no UPC codes anywhere. If Amazon has to squint or guess letters, they'll reject it. Helpful tip: include your hand in one photo. The shadow going over the logo is what Amazon sometimes requests to prove the brand name is real and not photoshopped on the product. This isn't required, but it helps, especially if you were rejected in the past and don't know why. Lighting should be natural. Avoid glare that causes the text to be obscured. What does not work? Edited or cleaned up images that you would usually use on the listing, printing a label and sticking it on. Clothing is the one exception here. For apparel, the brand name can be printed on a tag. It does not have to be permanently affixed to the garment itself or the packaging. Barcodes on the products, packaging inserts, or manuals. Packaging problems and workarounds. Here's the key thing to understand first. Amazon only requires branded packaging to get through the GTIN exemption approval. This is a one-time requirement. Once you're approved, Amazon does not come back later to recheck your packaging and to make sure your brand name is always on there, nor is that something that they require. So if your product doesn't normally have branding on it, that's fine. You can brand one box, get approved, and then sell the product using the packaging you already have. What does work for this? Vinyl branding on a plain box. You can see here, this is a brand that didn't have their brand name on anything, but Cassie here used a Cricut machine to cut vinyl and stick it on this box, which got approved. You can also just print one box with your brand name on it. Now, most print shops don't want to print a single box. However, you can look on Etsy and there's plenty of people who will create a single box with your brand name on it. You would just need to find one the correct size and order it. You can also order a custom vinyl decal of your logo or brand name, have them ship it to you, and you stick it on your own box. The branding just needs to look intentional and permanent. This works well for apparel, decor, crafts, and accessories. Not for regulated products like food or supplements, but those types of products aren't allowed to use GTIN exemptions anyway. If your product isn't manufactured yet, that's a different situation. I'll cover that in a separate video. Once you submit the application, approvals usually come back within a few days. If you want to check the status of your application, you can do that inside Seller Central under Catalog, Selling Applications. If it's approved, you're good to go and you should be able to list products in that category with your brand name without putting in a product ID. If you followed these steps, most applications should go through without any issues. If your GTIN exemption does get rejected, don't worry, almost every rejection comes down to one of three things. The brand name doesn't match exactly what's printed, the photos aren't clear enough to verify the branding matches and is really printed on the product, or a barcode showed up somewhere it shouldn't have. Look at the rejection message for hints, fix the one thing Amazon is pointing to, change one or two things max, and reapply. Most of the time you can reapply and get approved just fine. If you're getting rejected multiple times and have no idea on how to fix it, feel free to reach out to me at hello@5starcommerce.com. Now that you're on your way to getting a GTIN exemption, the next question a lot of brands run into is whether or not they should get brand registered on Amazon. That decision depends on your situation, your brand, and what you're actually trying to do. So if you're not sure whether brand registry makes sense for you right now, click right here and watch my video where I break down when you should get brand registered, when you shouldn't, and how to think about that decision the right way.